you'll find your place in your Bible at the book of Ecclesiastes. If you're new to the faith or a young believer and you don't know where Ecclesiastes is, that's okay. Don't be embarrassed by that. We all had to learn. If you can find the book of Psalms almost in the middle of your Bible, and then if you can go forward 2 books, Proverbs and then Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is tucked in there between Proverbs and Song of Solomon. And it's 12 chapters long, and over the coming weeks, I'm going to be looking at the book of Ecclesiastes with you. Every time that I'm preaching on Sunday morning, we're going to be coming back to the book of Ecclesiastes, even when it's a holiday weekend. When we might have another kind of a message on a holiday weekend, we're going to be coming back even during those weekends back to this study of the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is one of those books that a lot of people don't like to read. Some of you, when you're reading through your Bible over the course of a year, you come to the book of Ecclesiastes and you skip it. And you skip it because it seems to have a negative tone to it. It seems to be pessimistic when you're reading through this book, and that bothers a lot of people. Ray Stedman, who is an author, a pastor, written a number of books, called Ecclesiastes the mystery book of the Old Testament. The mystery book of the Old Testament. Derek Kidner, who is a scholar, he's written a number of books on the Old Testament, specifically here on the book of Ecclesiastes, says that the Old Testament has lots of different kinds of literature. It has poetry and law, storytelling, psalmody, vision, I would say prophecy, narrative, historical narrative. But he says no book in this whole great volume speaks in quite this tone of voice. And if you've ever read through the book of Ecclesiastes, you know that the tone of voice in this book is unique to a lot of the other books of the Old Testament, and for that matter, to the New Testament. But what you need to understand is that this book of Ecclesiastes counters many of the things that we're feeling and dealing with in this world today. It counters things like atheism and hedonism and humanism and materialism and existentialism, and a number of other of these isms are countered in this very book, the book of Ecclesiastes. The book of Ecclesiastes helps us to avoid having an overly simplistic view of the world. A lot of people have a very simplistic view, but the book of Ecclesiastes has a realism about it. He's telling you the reality of the things that are in the world around us. It's reminding us that we can't hold things of this world too tightly. And it helps us to understand what I've titled this series of messages. It helps us to understand the good life and the pursuit of the good life. I think everybody in this room wants to live the good life, right? I mean, there'd be something wrong with you if you didn't want to live the good life. But a lot of times we go about living the good life in the wrong way. And the book of Ecclesiastes tells us how to live the good life, and he wants us to enjoy the life that he's given to us. As a matter of fact, you will hear the author of this book say on several occasions, I want you to live life and enjoy it. But he's also going to tell you how to have that good life and how to enjoy the life in a way that you will appreciate and that you will understand when you stand before God one day in eternity. I mean, this book is realistic about life's struggles, about life's fears, about the troubles that we have to deal with in this life. And it answers questions that are still being asked to this very day, like what is the meaning of life? Do you know what is the real meaning of life? It answers questions like, why am I so unhappy when I'm searching so hard to find happiness? The author of this book is going to answer that question. Or questions like, is life really worth living? Over the course of the pandemic, the number of suicides demonstrated that there were a lot of people who just couldn't find a reason for living. They couldn't figure out if life was worth living or not. Or that age-old question, does life really have a purpose? Those questions and many more questions that are like those questions are answered in the book of Ecclesiastes. And here's what's interesting about the book of Ecclesiastes. Though it may be negative at times and it may seem pessimistic at times, this book was actually written for young people. So let me qualify young people. We're not just talking about teenagers or college-age students or young adults. We're talking about people that are 30 and 40 and 50. People who are still in the prime of life, when they still have, God willing, lots of life yet to be able to live. They still have the opportunity to pursue lots of things in the course of living out their lives. This book is written to those who are young. So you might be a teenager here today, or you might be in your 50s or even more. But this book speaks directly to you. Look back, if you will, at the last chapter, or next to the last chapter, chapter 11 of the book of Ecclesiastes, and notice verse 9. Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 9. The writer says, "Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth." And you get down to verse 10, and at the end of verse 10, he says, "For childhood and youth are vanity." Childhood and youth. And then you open chapter 12, verse 1. "Remember now your Creator in the days of your youth." And so this book, while it may seem pessimistic and it may seem negative, what I want you to understand is that it's actually written to young people. It's written to young people who have life to live. And this is the idea of what's going on. The author of the book is telling you, I've been there and I've done that, and I've got the t-shirt to prove it. Now pull up a chair and listen to me. I want to tell you some things because I want you to enjoy the good life, but you should avoid the pitfalls where I have already been. And that's what he's saying. Young people, this is for you, but you're going to have to be willing to listen to somebody older than you are who's been there and done that and's got the t-shirt and knows what he's talking about. We live in a generation, I don't suppose any generation is different, but we live in a generation that's stubborn, that's stiff-necked, that's rebellious in heart, that says, I'm going to do it my way. And I'm going to go through the hardships and the hard knocks of life. I'm not going to listen to anybody else. I want the good life, but I'll find it for myself. I don't need you to tell me anything. And the author of this book says, you need to stop and listen to me for a little while because I've been down that path and I can tell you it doesn't lead you to the good life. It leads you to a painful life. And you need to stop and listen to me. I can help you find the good life you long for. But you got to be willing to listen. And there's a lot of young people. There's a lot of young adults. There's a lot of adults in the middle years of their lives that won't listen to anybody else other than themselves. It doesn't matter how wise they may be. I have discovered after 45 years of ministry that when people come to speak to me and talk to me, that a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times they simply want me to confirm what they already believe. Just tell me what I want to hear. Just confirm that I'm right in what I'm thinking. They don't really come asking for the wisdom of the years and the knowledge of the Scripture to be able to apply it to their lives. They just want some affirmation of what they've already decided to do. And that's the opposite of what this book is about. This book is about writing to people who have lots of life yet to live and invest so that they can find what the writer of Ecclesiastes will define as the good life, where you can enjoy your life and do it in a way that honors God in the process. But if you won't listen to me and you won't pay any attention to somebody who's already been down the wrong path, then you'll have to go down that wrong path and find out. But in the process, you will miss the good life, or you will shorten the length of days that you have to enjoy the good life because you weren't willing to listen to anybody else other than your own voice or the voices of your friends who all agreed with you and said the same thing that you say. So it's written for the purpose of helping us find the good life by telling us, don't do this, don't do that, and that comes across as negative. Sometimes that comes across as pessimistic because it sometimes contradicts what we already are doing or what we think we want to do rather than what we need to do if we're going to experience the good life. Now it's interesting that if you're going to read this book, you have to have the interpretive key. As a matter of fact, if you had the interpretive key, you could read this book and you could understand it and you would appreciate the negativity and the pessimism that's in the book. The look at life from the perspective it sees life. And do you know what that interpretive key is? It's found in the opening verses of chapter 1. Follow along with me. It says, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Israel, vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. That's his thesis. Wouldn't you love to have a thesis statement that says, vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity? Oh yeah, this is going to be exciting, Pastor. I can see that now. Yeah. If you're not willing to listen to wisdom, if you're not willing to listen to somebody who's been down the path, and you don't have to go down that same dumb path and find that it's a dead-end road. If you're willing to listen to somebody who's been there and done that, he can help you to avoid going down the wrong paths, and you can be wise. By the way, this is wisdom literature. It's in the wisdom portion of your Bible. It's imparting to you something that you need to know that you do not know. It's wisdom that God wants to give to you. But the interpretive key comes in verse 3. What profit has a man for all his labor? You felt like that before, haven't you? In which he toils. And here's the interpretive key, under the sun. Under the sun. Here's something that I would encourage you to do over the course of the study of this book with me. Take your Bible and find, every time you find the word vain or vanity, circle it, highlight it, underline it. And every time you find the phrase under the sun, you will find the word vain or vanity 38 times, and you will find the phrase under the sun 29 times. As a matter of fact, if you could see my Bible, which I know you can't, I've been through and marked every time you find the word vain or vanity, and every time you find the phrase under the sun, and my Bible looks scarred. It looks like it has wounds on every single page. But if you don't understand what he means by under the sun, then you don't understand the negativity and the pessimism of the book. And you don't understand why at the end of the book he says, look, gather up here with me, all you young people, gather up here and listen to me. I've been there, I've done that, I've got the t-shirt. Please don't make these same mistakes. Please don't go down this same path. It doesn't lead to the good life. If you want the good life, and I want you, he says it over and over, to enjoy the life you've been given. If you want the good life, listen to me. Listen to me. Don't be stiff-necked. Don't be stubborn. Don't be rebellious at heart. Don't be the one who has to learn in the school of hard knocks. Listen to me. And that interpretive key opens up the entire book. You say, what does he mean when he says under the sun? Well, it means on this earth. The phrase literally means on this earth or on this physical world. In contrast, hear the words? In contrast to the spiritual world. Again, Derek Kidner says, Solomon's viewpoint includes exclusively the world we can observe, and that our observation point is at ground level. In other words, the writer of this book is saying to us, all I can see is what I can see, and all I can know is what I can know. And what I see and what I know, it ain't pretty. It doesn't fulfill. It doesn't bring happiness. But by the time he gets to the end of the book, he says, let me tell you something. I can show you the way to happiness, and I can show you the way to fulfillment, and I can show you the way to the good life. If you'll only listen to me, if you'll only pay attention to me, I can help you. But you got to understand that much of this book is him telling you what life is like under the sun. It's a horizontal perspective on life. It's a humanistic perspective on life. I remember when I was in Bible college, which has been a long time ago, we had to write papers on humanism. I thought, man, how silly is this? Humanism, nobody believes in humanism. Those papers are in my files. Do you realize we are as humanistic a society as we have ever been? By humanism, I mean that man is at the center. It's all about who we are, and what we have for the most part is a naturalistic point of view. What we can get the best scholars who have the most knowledge and who know the most number of things, get them all together and collectively combine all of their information, and that's all we know. The only thing we can see is what's under the sun. We can know something about the past unless they remove all the monuments from the past. We can know something about the past. We can know things about the present. We might even be like a meteorologist. We might be able to predict a little bit about some of the future. But the reality is we don't know much beyond that, because all we can see under the sun is what we can see, and all we can know under the sun is what we know. And so he goes through here living out life, giving you his experiences one after another of looking at life from a naturalistic point of view, a humanistic point of view, saying, I'm just living for me, and I'm living according to what I can see. It's very much the existentialism of the day. You know, where life doesn't really have any meaning and you're not really sure what its meaning is, and nevertheless, you're responsible for making the right choices. We just hope you make the right choices, because if you don't make the right choices, you won't even get to any of these places that really don't have any meaning anyway. Solomon says, the writer of this book says, there's a whole lot more to life than just living by what you can see. There's a God's eye view to life, not just a man-centered view to life. Now, who is this author who writes these words and says, I want you to draw near to me, and I want you to listen to me. Young people, listen to me. I've got some insight and some understanding and some wisdom. You think you're smart. You think you know it all. You think you've got the world by the tail. But let me tell you, I've been down this path, and I can give you some inside information, and I can keep you from having to go through that pothole of life if you'll only listen. You don't have to bend up the rims of your life's car. If you'll just listen to me, I can keep you out of the pit. Who is this one who was living his life according to an under-the-sun view, where he's just seeing what he can see and understanding what he can understand, where he's just very humanistic in his approach to life? Who is this one? Well, in verse 1, he says, the words of the preacher. The Hebrew word for preacher is koheleth. This word preacher is used 7 times in the book of Ecclesiastes. A koheleth, a preacher, is somebody who has the authority to gather people together for the purpose of imparting some kind of information that they need to hear. And so it's an assembly with somebody who's called that assembly together to say something that needs to be heard. So we have here an elderly man, a man who's in the twilight years of his life, who's calling the young people to himself and saying, I've been there and I've done that, and I've tried this path and that path. Life is like a maze, and I already know the pathway through the maze because I met a lot of the dead ends along the way. If you'll just listen to me, I've got some information. And he gathers a group together out of Israel and says, come listen to me, come pay attention to me. I want to teach you something. He's the preacher. But that's not enough to identify who this is. He says he's the son of David. That doesn't help us a whole lot either, does it? We know that David had at least 20 sons. We know of one daughter. He had at least 20 sons. One of those sons died just after birth, not long after birth, after the sin with Bathsheba. But David had as many as 20 sons, so that doesn't really fully qualify. It's somebody who has the authority to gather people together and teach them in an authoritative way. He's somebody who is the son of David, but then he says he's the king of Jerusalem, or king in Jerusalem. Matter of fact, in verse 12, you'll notice he says, I, the preacher, there it is, Koheleth, was king over Israel, or king over Israel in Jerusalem. Now we're getting clarity, aren't we? Now we're getting clarity. It's not just the preacher, somebody qualified to gather people together, not just one of the many sons of David. This is a particular son. And the only son of David that was king in Jerusalem was the man Solomon. Right? Turn back to the last chapter of the book for a moment. Chapter 12, verse 9. Let's just clarify this. Verse 9, and moreover, because the preacher, Koheleth, was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yes, he pondered and sought out and set in order many proverbs. Here's another qualifier. Who is it that we know wrote Proverbs? 3,000 of the 3,000 Proverbs. Who was that man? It was Solomon. So who is it that is summoning the young people to himself at the end of his life, in the twilight years of his life, to say, look, I've tried all of these other pathways. I went through the maze. That's a dead end. No, that's a dead end. No, that's a dead end. No, that's a dead end too. Listen to me. Here's the way through this maze that takes you to the other side, that brings you to the good life where you can really enjoy the life that God's given to you. Listen to me. I'm the son of David, the favored king of Israel, the king by whom all other kings were measured. I'm right now king in Jerusalem, and I've written all of these proverbs. You mean to tell me that Solomon wrote this pessimistic, negative book? King Solomon? That can't be, Pastor. That just can't be, because you got to understand, don't you remember, preacher? Surely you know your Bible well enough to know that God gave to Solomon an unusual wisdom that excelled everybody of his day. Surely a man given that kind of wisdom wouldn't have made such mistakes in the course of his life. That's sort of like saying, surely the people that come to church every Sunday and hear me preach, and our other pastors on the staff hear us preach the word of the living God and show you what the Scripture says to do, surely you're doing those things, right? You can be the wisest fool that ever lived. And Solomon is the man who writes the book that says, I've been there and done that. I've got the t-shirt to prove it. And if you'll only pull up your chair and listen to me, young people, stop being stubborn, stop being a stiff-neck, stop being rebellious of heart. Listen to what I have to say. I'm going to teach you some things about life. Now, you can go do life the way you want to do life. You can bang your head against the wall if that's what you choose to do. But I can lead you to the good life if you'll only listen to me. I want you to go with me back for a few moments to 1 Kings chapter 2. I want to take you quickly and briefly through the life of Solomon. As you know, David was the king to whom, or was the king that was the penultimate king. Every king after him was compared to him. When Solomon came to power, his father had died. You notice in chapter 2, verse 10, so David rested with his fathers and was buried in the city of David. The period that David reigned over Israel was 40 years. 7 years he reigned in Hebron, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years. Then Solomon sat on the throne of his father David, and his kingdom was firmly established. Let me give you an insight into Solomon's kingdom. David had done all the fighting. David had done all the warring. David had done all the defeating. For the most part, King Solomon is going to rule over a 40-year period of time that's going to be a time of relative peace. That means that most of the money that they have isn't going to have to be spent on wartime efforts. Most of the money they have is going to be able to be spent in Jerusalem, and specifically on the building of the temple. Turn over, if you will, to chapter 3. I want to simply mark this in your mind. Verse 1. Now Solomon made a treaty with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and married Pharaoh's daughter. Oh my. Oh my. You say, well, he's 20. At this point in his life, he's 20, 21, 22 years of age. He's very young. He's given this responsibility, this task of ruling over this great people, the people of Israel. And he's very young, and he made a dumb mistake. This is not something that he should have done. He entered into a treaty with the king of Egypt, and as a part of the agreement, he gets a woman from Egypt to become his wife. Do you know what God said about these kinds of things? God had already told them, you don't intermarry with the pagans around you. Because if you do, the end result is they will take your heart and turn it away from the Lord.